All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Monday Morning Bubba, where we have discussions about construction related items. Trying to get that background music set. Here we go, practicing live streaming again. Occurs every Monday morning at 05 a.m. Eastern Time. This week I'm still out in a wonderful place called Hereford, Texas. It's working with a great bunch of guys, having a good project. We're doing a lot of good things out here. We're in a demolition project, and it's going along well. We went through a couple dust storms last week. I mean, it flat out blew. I guess this is called the open plains or whatever. We're outside of Amarillo, and that wind blew for hours at 50 plus miles an hour, and we're doing demolition, and you can imagine the debris that was floating around. But anyway, the guys did a super job of keeping that stuff secured within the footprint of the site, thanks to some fencing. I think it's A1 Rocket. Shout out for A1 Rocket. They'd handle porta potties, and they happen to do construction site fencing. And so far, it's held up well. And the guys went through there and put a windscreen about halfway up. Boy, if that thing had been all the way to the top, we'd have had panels all over the place. And put some swaddles down at the bottom, and it really did a good job. It took a very little maintenance, and now the guys are cleaning up. We've got that building down, and now it's just pulling the concrete and cleaning the job site. I would show you some pictures, but I better check with the contractor and the owner Done some drone flights around it. Maybe down the road I can show you some of that. But anyway, having a good time out here in Hereford, Texas, working 6 days a week. That leaves us 1 day a week for me to script these videos and get ready to do it. I'm in a hotel room, so what you see is what you get. Just because, now that brings me to the subject of the day, is the changing conditions on the job site. First of all, good morning, everybody. Glad you're tuning in. Gives me another chance to practice my live streaming and get together with you guys. Anyway, since we've been doing that, we on a job site, the job site changing conditions from 1 minute to the next. It's a little more relevant when you look at it from a demolition perspective, but even in the construction building up perspective, one day there's no hazard in your work area, and the next day there's a bunch of them. For instance, if you're on a construction site, excuse me, I picked up a cold. If you're on a construction site, it's perfect one day, and then the second shift decided to put in some footers and have dug the holes, and the condition has changed. In the same way with demolition, it looks good at the beginning of the day, and at the end of the day, you pulled up some structural steel, columns in particular, and they're mounted to the ground, and you pull them up, and they bring their footers with them, and that creates a hole, which is a hazard. Somebody could step into it. So conditions are different, but the hazard is same. And there's a million instances about that. So it was safe yesterday, might not be safe today. Weather changes, layouts change, traffic patterns change, the work changes. That's why we don't work on autopilot. All right, well, if you're rolling this morning, do a quick mental check. What's different today? Is it raining where you're at? Snowing? Is it windy? Is the traffic different? Is there different traffic patterns on the job site to and fro work? What's moving that wasn't moving before? One day we could have one track hoe on the job doing demolition work, and then the next day another one comes in, and then we have to do dust control where we have a water truck come in, and so I got a couple track hoes, a bobcat, and a water truck running around the site. That's a significant change, especially the smaller the site is. It could get a little crowded, and we've got to be looking out for one another. All right, well, anyway, let's do that old roll call thing. And y'all got to forgive me. The window is right here, and there's a busy rail, east-west rail. That thing, you'll hear trains every few minutes, keeping America rolling. Everything from petrochemical to other chemicals to coal to general freight. It's rolling all the time. And the big trucks here to pick up the cattle and haul them off, dropping off grain at the various granaries around here, or picking up grain, I should say. So it's quite a busy highway. So if you hear that noise, I've done the best I can to eliminate it. But anyway, roll call. I am here in Hereford. Where are you at? Where are you headed? What trade are you in? I guess I'm in the demolition trade. Primary role is safety, and it's a lot of administrative work, and keep an eye out for the fellas and making sure they stay safe. We've been real successful on this job in that arena, and it's because of the safety culture that the superintendent on this job has developed and maintains, and it's a real pleasure to work with these guys. So, where you headed? What trade you're in? And what kind of equipment or trucking operations are you working around today? The job doesn't say this stay the same, and neither should your level of concentration. There goes a big old truck roaring down the road. These old truck drivers around here like them big motors, and they like straight pipes. They like to everybody knows they're coming in and going. Truck drivers the same the world around. I love my truck driving buddies. I'm a truck driver. My first career was in the trucking industry. Uh, I guess toward the end of that phase in my life, I was in the postal contractor business, and them trucks never stop. Uh, they're not real powerful machines like some of these guys out west where the speed limit is 100. Seems like I think I've driven parts of Texas down south where the speed limit's 80, maybe 75, I don't remember. Anyway, boys in their trucks. Y'all, excuse me, man. This cold is getting to me. The phrase of the week is working around heavy equipment and trucks. This week's phrase is about working around heavy equipment and trucks, especially when we're moving demolition materials and loading out trucks. Now, on a construction site, man, you never know what you're going to get in. Structural steel, man lift equipment, concrete trucks rolling in, pouring footings. But on the demolition side of things, we only thing we bring in is equipment, and we'll bring it in and ship it out. And the rest of the time, we got trucks rolling in, picking up that old scrap iron and non-ferrous and demolition debris and hauling it off. And that's, somebody said, and I believe it, 64% of the demolition business is trash removal. But loading out those trucks, and now it's pretty high energy work. They got big machines with limited visibility, tight spaces, heavy loads, and on our job site, we talk about it every day. Here's the three things I talk about: struck by, caught in between, and spotters. Every day, every day. There's a lot of moving parts with that. I could have 2 or 3 trucks on site and 2 or 3 pieces of heavy equipment loading, skid steers scratching it up, getting it in a pile. Uh, and if the job site is 100 yards or 150 yards by 150 yards, it's a pretty intense situation. You got guys opening gates, closing gates, dropping in backing in the trucks, doing spotter work, getting the paperwork together, getting the trucks in the proper location. I might have a crew burning, doing some torch work. So it's a lot going on, and the danger isn't just the equipment. It's where people stand, walk, and assume they're seen. We had a particular situation last week where a spotter was backing in a truck, and I'm doing my observations, and the truck had to do a jackknife to get the thing backed in, and I know that truck driver could not see my spotter. You need to be looking at, if you're spotting, you need to be looking at the cab of that truck and the mirrors. And if you can't see that driver's face in those mirrors, he certainly don't see you. And he's got a lot of things going on there, trying to get a piece of equipment, a trailer backed in somewhere. So if you can't see them, they can't see you. Make sure you maintain that visual with that equipment operator. It's a lot easier for you move, and it behooves you for your own safety and well-being to get out of the way and make sure he sees you. If you're on foot, you're always the most fragile thing on site. If you're in the seat, you're moving something that can't stop on a dime. Both sides have responsibility. Still always wins. So your best move is to never challenge it. I need to find, do I have a cough button anywhere? Yeah, I could do that. You got to remember to do that instead of coughing in y'all's face. That's how I got this cold. Guy walked in, we knew he was having some respiratory issues, and he was in the office. We're in a little Connex. We got 6 or 7 guys crowded in there, and it started. I think I'm the 4th one to get it. So we're just going to have to struggle through it. Take some meds to relieve the symptoms, and it's viral in nature, I am quite sure. And with viral infections, the best defense or the best healing properties is your own body. So stay hydrated. Make sure you get plenty of nutrition. All right, the safety snapshot: caught by and caught in between. Some of the hazards, let's talk about struck by and caught in between hazards around equipment and trucks. We've covered a little bit of it. Common danger zones is a swing radius of, say, a track hoe, the backing paths of the truck, and if you got equipment being delivered, it could be between the truck and its trailer when they're dropping a piece of heavy equipment. Sometimes, you get those low boys in, they disconnect, and then the driver has to try and reconnect from the cab of the truck. Now, that's quite a task. I've done that plenty of times. Getting caught between equipment and stockpiles, under suspended or shifting loads. There's all kinds of hazards out there. Some key reminders in that arena. We've talked about some of them already. Never assume an operator sees you. Hey, send me a comment. I'd like to hear from you this morning. Give me that thumbs up. Let me know you're watching. Helps me out, helps channel out. It encourages me to get up at the ungodly hour I do and get on here and talk to you guys. Back to it. Escape routes. Make sure you know how you're going to get out of the way. I was in the demolition business. I'd been in a number of years, but I'd never been in the big boy stuff. We were taking down a powerhouse, and I had the mud drum that's way up above the boilers that catches particulates so they don't go out into the atmosphere. And we were trying to get that structure down that had that mud drum at the top. And it's probably not a big deal now, but when you're first starting out and you're watching that, it's kind of intimidating. And so I'm standing there with one of the engineers, the vice president. They called him out there on the job to help that. And I'm standing there, I'm trying to pay attention to what's happening. I'm trying to learn all the time. And I'm standing there watching. He started to back up and he bumped into me and he goes, "Which way you going?" I said, "Well, I was going to follow you." And he goes, "Well, then leave me a clear path, 'cause when I have to run, I don't want to be bumping into nobody." So he got me there, and that was a valuable lesson. And I use that all the time. Which way you going? So always keep an escape route in mind. Never stand between a moving object and between a moving machine or object and a fixed object. You don't want to get caught in a crush point. Make sure you always make eye contact before you approach any kind of equipment. And that includes them darn little old skid steers. Had a guy, a young guy, I guess, and he was scooter pooting around on that skid steer. He thought he was getting a lot done, and he probably was. But he had that thing, let me cough, hang on. He had that thing revved up pretty good, and he was scooting along there, scooping up debris and piling it up, and hit a stub up with that bucket. About ejected him if he wouldn't have had a seatbelt on. He'd probably been laying on the ground. I said, "Did you break any teeth with that?" And he goes, "Nope." I said, "Now, did you learn anything from that?" Everybody was giving him grief. Anybody who has operated a skid steer or a tractor with a bucket on it, you know the feeling of going too fast and hitting something with that bucket and getting bucked. But remember, if you can't see the operator's eyes, they can't see you. All right, it's 5:20 in the morning. Good morning. Check in with me. Send me a thumbs up, a smiley face, or a comment, and let me know you're out there. Make a comment, good or bad. If you think I'm a dummy and you ain't getting nothing from this and you're going on, let me say goodbye. I say improve the content and I might come back. That'll be all right with me. All right, this week's challenge: have the conversations that prevent close calls. Challenge your crew. Challenge your crew to talk about loading zones, define no-go zones, agree on spotter positions, and call out changing conditions, and stop work when the plan breaks down. See that a lot of times. The superintendent will, in the morning safety meeting, he'll have a direction he wants to go in. And midday, that direction has run its course, and the guys are piddling around and getting kind of lackadaisical, I guess would be the proper word. Looking for ways to stay busy in that particular task. And so the supervisor will recognize that, and he'll create a new game plan and go out there and issue it. But we need to make sure, if the hazards have changed, that we talk about that as well. And that's one of the things on this job site. And I know from a production standpoint, it's kind of awkward. You think you're burning man hours, but on this job site, this crew comes back together after lunch, readdresses the tasks that everybody's involved in, and talks about the hazards or changing conditions, and gets back in the field after a short 10-minute gathering. So that's from a production standpoint, you got 5 guys standing around. That's almost a man hour you have spent. And in my and in my opinion, that's probably the best 5 minute or 1 hour in man labor that could be spent after lunch. But anyway, bottom line, heavy equipment work goes best when everyone knows the plan and no one assumes. And that's what that little meeting is all about. All right. Pluriforia, thank you. She says a joke here. Why did the spotter bring a ladder? Because the operator said, I need a better view of your ideas. Yeah, here's another one, Pluriforia. Why don't trucks argue with excavators? Because they always lose the debate. You know, when I asked Pluriforia to help me out with these, you know what? I don't see her in my background. She's liable to get her feelings hurt. And, man, she's liable to get her feelings hurt. No wonder the jokes think that she gives me those dad jokes. I'm going to have to change. I'm the place to put her in. Anyway, all credit to my digital assistant. She helps me. She probably saves me at least an hour every week. Oh, look at that. Hey, Kim, good morning. Wow, you're up early. You didn't get up just to see me, did you? Thanks for the comment. Anyway, love of my life. Anyway, how do we go from here? Oh, yeah, I need to get Pluriforia in here, my digitalist. She saves me a bunch of time. And I always tell her to make these jokes, kind of keep them at dad joke level. You never know who's going to watch, you know. They might be a young person on here. It's up and cruises by. But what's the safest place around heavy equipment? Where the operator knows where you are. And can't stress that enough. Make sure you maintain eye contact with your operators and spotters. Y'all keep track. You know, I once saw a guy walk behind a backing truck and say, he knows I'm here. And the spotter said he does now because I just stopped him. The one sentence probably saved a life. And I've seen that. There'd be a truck driver roll in the site, and there'll be 2 or 3 spotters out there throwing different hand signals. Old truck driver, you can hear him set the brakes. Silence. Yeah, what's the matter? He says, when y'all make up y'all's mind, I'll make up mine. Until then, I'm going to sit here. And they had to figure out who was going to guide that truck in. And I just gave that old driver the thumbs up. I said, you got it right, buddy. You just sit right there until they figure it out. Here you are with a 50-foot trailer behind you and a big old sleeper cab. You're traveling down the highway, and you probably got 80 feet of vehicle. And all kinds of objects in the path you're trying to back, and it's confusing enough, brother. You sit there and let them figure it out. We'll get you in there. Wow, it's 5:27 in the morning. Actually, it is 4:27 where I'm at. I got to get through with this thing, break down the equipment, pack it in the bag, and take it to work. I did have a couple of questions, sure enough. Question was, asking how to reduce near misses during truck loading. I told him, I said, just slow the process down and tighten the communication. Sometimes the driver have a CB radio and sometimes not. But back to the instance I just pointed out, one spotter clears signals in one plan. And normally what we have on this project is a spotter, and his responsibility is to issue the bill of ladings for the steel or the C&D that's going to a landfill. And he'll hop up there and talk to the driver and tell him, you're taking steel on this load. I'm going to be loading you over here, and you need to back into this area. And then that spotter who was issuing the manifest has had a conversation with that driver, so they developed, a limited relationship. They know what each other looks like, and so then that spotter, he's in the field and he's kind of directing that driver, and that driver knows to just pay attention to him. And that's just one of the things that I've talked about and promoted when I'm on a job site, and it works pretty well, and the guys feel better about it. Most close calls happen when everyone thinks someone else is watching. That's exactly why we talk it out first. Oh man, y'all excuse me, I got a break here, I got a call. All right, there we go. That didn't take long. Tools and tricks staying in view of operators and drivers, and this is pretty central theme this morning because it's important. Here's some practical habits. Always approach equipment from the front or side where you're visible. Now, if you've got a track hoe, that guy can spin 360 degrees either way continuously. So as you approach him, you want to make sure you're well out of the swing radius of that bucket. And you can do some predictions as you're walking up on him to know that he's picking up on the left and loading from the tailgate toward the cab on the truck. So you know that's your best approach. But don't get within that swing radius and stand there, and eventually he'll see you. Now, one of the tricks we have in the demolition business is pick up a stone or a piece of steel and throw it in front of the bucket or the attachment on the stick. And these operators are astute enough to recognize that ain't natural, and so they know that that's some type of signal, and that's developed through relationships and operational procedures. So make sure that you get that eye contact. And a lot of times the operator will idle down the machine and set the bucket down, and you can approach to get in there. Same way if you're on a little bobcat. A lot of guys forget that. These bobcats weigh a couple tons, and these track hoes weigh, what, 40, 60, 80,000 pounds? And they're swinging around, and these operators in these bobcats, they think they're invincible. And they'll get in there, man. An 80,000 pound machine swinging a bucket that weighs a ton, and you're in a little 2,000 pound skid steer. If he hits you, there's going to be a lot of paperwork involved, if not a trip somewhere with a sprung neck or sprung back. So keep that eye contact and all that, even when you're in another piece of equipment. Another thing is, which we always have, is high visibility clothing. And And if you work with a crew long enough, you understand certain hand signals, and certain signals are common in the industry and demolition or construction. We all pretty much know what the signals are for right, left, up, and down, tilt. Um, so make sure you know those hand signals. Uh, Another thing is never assume and always confirm. Uh, this job site's pretty good. Everybody's got a daggum radio. Sometimes, though, you get too much chatter on a radio. It could be just as hazardous as not having one. Cross communications, bad communications, too many communications at one time. Everybody's walking on each other. Radio wise, you can't hear it. That's another thing that you've always got to be concerned about, but never assume, always confirm. Visibility isn't luck, it's intentional positioning. All right, I tell you what, I've gotten ahead of myself. All right. Yeah, now I gotta fill dead space and let the script catch back up to me. This is where it gets tricky. People say I got plenty to say, but when you get in this situation, I know this ain't radio. I know I got someone who cares about me watching, but it's tough without someone interacting with you. And occasionally I'll have somebody interact with me, ask a question or and help me fill this dead air space just to keep me from standing here and staring at you. Yeah, I had to come up with something to say. Yeah, well. This old chest cold got me going. Y'all, excuse me, man. I gotta. All right. We talk about trade wisdom quotes. Big machines, they can't make small errors. You think about how big they are. Old timers knew this. When equipment is involved, little errors turn into big consequences. That's why space communication and awareness really do matter. Yeah, it's that's an important point. Um, yeah, like I said, you got a little 2-ton skid steer scooting around there, and the guy's in a cage, but he gets too close to a track hoe, and it's got a big old beam, 20-foot beam he's loading in the truck, and that skid steer gets between um, the track hoe and the truck. And that beam is at an angle, he can swing around, and that beam can go straight into that skid steer and seriously injure, if not kill, that guy who's operating that skid steer. So that's why, we it's a multiplying effect. People look at those buckets and they say, well, they're not moving real fast. Hell, they ain't got to move fast. They weigh a bunch. That energy that they have stored in their movement is colossal. It can really, I've seen a guy swing a beam into a truck and punch a hole through 1/8 of inch steel. That truck could be made of 1/8 inch steel, and a column or a beam. The operator didn't have his elevation properly, and he's swinging toward the truck and run that I-beam straight in to that truck. And then he can't get it back out. At an angle or whatever, it lowers and is jammed in there. By the time he's done, he's got a hole twice as big as what he started when he went in. And then you get back billed for the damage to the truck, and the truck driver's wages are affected because his equipment's in the shop being repaired, and you're not moving as much material off the site. And by the time you do all the math and add all that up, if nobody's hurt, it's quite consequential. Anyway, here we are. It's 5:37 in the morning. Oops, sorry about that. So these struck by, caught in between, all these things that can happen when you're operating around equipment on the job site. And on these particular job sites, you're probably going to have one or two guys on the ground. You got a spotter directing equipment. You've got a guy out there exercising dust control, got a water hose or out there trying to keep the dust down. He's an old safety guy, be walking around the site. You never know. So it's a busy site, and everybody has to know where everybody is. On this job site, everybody's got a radio. You can hear it, "Hey, operator, I'm coming around to your right side," and the operator will confirm, "Okay, I got you." That's another important thing when you're issuing radio instructions, to make sure you use that three-way communication. And we talked about that several times on this job site. And the technique for three-way communication is, say the supervisor has to issue a set of instructions, and he'll go, "Hey, Joey, take this over here and do this, and pile it there, and do this." And then Joey will repeat those instructions back to the superintendent, just to make sure that verify that he understood the information that was transmitted to him. And the one who issued the instruction will confirm it, say, "That's perfectly right, you got it." And that's three-way communication, and that's, in my opinion, a critical form of communication on a job site. All right, what else we got to talk about this morning? Oh, me. I'm so glad I got up this morning. These old boys, excuse me, I should have hit the cough button. These old boys, I'll go downstairs in about an hour when they start serving the same old breakfast. Have a cup of coffee and sitting there watching the boob tube, waiting on them to open up the breakfast hall. And these old boys is amazed that I look like I'm just wide awake and ready to go. They say, "Man, how do you wake up like that?" I said, "I wake up just like you, but about 2 hours in front of you." And they go, "What? What are you doing at that early hour?" I said, "Just fooling around." I don't want to go into it. Anyway, we can start talking about what's coming up this week on the channel. I've spent the past, 16 weeks, maybe 16 weeks covering the OSHA Focus 4, and that includes struck by, caught in between, electrical hazards, and there's 4 of them in the OSHA Focus 4. I don't have my literature right here to recall exactly what they all are. Fall protection. And they cover the most prominent injury classes that OSHA investigates every year. And these 4 have been on the top list for as long as OSHA has been around, since 1972 or whatever. And so I've been covering them. And this week on the other channel, Let's see where that thing is. It's right there. Oops, sorry, bumped the mic. The channel with all the tool, and I couldn't believe it. I looked at it the other day, and there's over 200 videos. I've been doing that for so many years. But we're covering this is the last video for the electrical hazards, and we're covering overhead and underground line clearance and dig safety as part of the OSHA Focus 4 electrocution hazards. Anyway, I guess the best example I have of that is a painter painting a house, had aluminum ladder. I don't know how to say that. Aluminum ladder, and he was moving from one side of the house to the other, and it was a single story family dwelling, typical ranch. And he was picking up that ladder and moving around, and he wasn't paying attention, and the power that was coming into the house, well, that ladder bumped that power line, and it got him good. He spent some time in the hospital. It got him good. So those are some of the things we talk about. And in the construction or demolition business, we're not talking about 240 service coming into a house. We're talking about 10K, 50K if you're running a factory, all kinds of big power. And if you're operating a boom lift and you're swinging around out there doing demolition or excavation, whatever it may be, and you swing around and hit that line, now we're not talking about 240, we're talking about 10K. I've seen videos of machines that burned right there. Seen them with a guy, never got out, just burned up right there. You could hear arcing and all that crazy noise, and all the grease points were burning, the rubber in the machine was burning, the seat, everything caught on fire. And nothing anybody could do until that wire broke, melted apart, or there's a switch on the line, but it's really got to hit a point where it'll throw that switch. But in other words, that power is going straight to ground. It don't know that there's a fault. It's not like the GFCIs you have in your house that recognize a goof up in the circuit and shut off. It could be a mess. So you see ladder trucks, fire equipment, not paying attention, and all kinds of crazy things. The dangers of the overhead power lines around equipment and trucks, you got to be aware of it. And now there's certain minimum approaches. The higher the voltage, the further away you've got to stay from that power line, because it will arc over. If you got a 10K, I think the minimum is 10 feet on 10K. But if it goes to 50K, then that approach distance increases because of the potential of arcing. So make sure you're aware of that. Get with your safety guy. We can go look in a book and figure it out. That's what they make them books for, I reckon. You can even go online and get it, but and anybody can do it. But your safety guy's probably looked at it at least once or twice before in his career and can probably find it a lot quicker and have discussions with you, or I've had some experience with it. But anyway, maintain those minimum approach distances. And what could happen when you assume the line is probably dead? I've seen that. especially if you're doing substructure demolition. Um, you know, some of these buildings have been around a long time, and you ask them for as-built, and they go, "What's as-built?" They don't have them. The plans have been gone long ago, and they say, "Well, I think that line came in over here." Yeah, and then you have the other option where you do call before you dig. And those old boys will come out there with some LIDAR or some kind of detection stuff and help you out locating electrical, gas lines, communication lines, and things like that. But if you don't transmit that information to the guy doing the digging, what good is it? I've been in those situations. Um, but uh, underground utilities turn routine digging into high risk work. And the simple steps that prevent life changing mistakes. All we got to do is know that if we're going to go digging, we need to know what's under there. And if you don't have a call before you dig, you don't have any markings, hold on, operator. Just don't do it, brother. Call the safety guy, call the project manager, call the superintendent, tell him, hey, I ain't digging. I don't know what's under here. So you did the right thing by not doing the work without all the pre-planning going into it. Put that responsibility back on to whom it belongs. Um, so if you don't plan for it, it will remind you of why you should have. I've seen entire factories, manufacturing facilities shut down because someone stuck a bucket in a power line. Big kaboom. Luckily, the operator wasn't injured, but a factory running at full bore, I think one time they told me that was $500,000 an hour. Anyway, know what's overhead, know what's underground, and never guess when lives are on the line, especially yours. All right. I'm running out of things here. But I tell you what, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be out here and work with a whole bunch of different guys, smart guys, intelligent guys, hardworking men and ladies who are out here working every day to provide a living for their families, to give nurture and food and all that stuff. That's why we're out here, right? Why are we out here? I know that's what we need to take care of ourselves so we can continue to be a good provider. And I'm grateful for those people. I'll tell you what else I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for those knuckleheads I've had to fire in my career because they weren't safe and they didn't care. They didn't respect what they were doing. I'm grateful for them too because they taught me to recognize over time those who do and those who don't, and those who can and those who can't. Now, with that being said, I understand that some people just can't grasp some concepts, but they're there to provide for their family. And I always need somebody to do housekeeping. And if you don't have the capability or desire to do anything other than that, I probably got a place for you. Anyway, make sure that you talk about the hazards. Um, I've made videos on it. It's my opinion that the JHA or the PTP, whatever you want to call it, the pre-task plan or the job hazard analysis, is the most important tool there is on any site. And that's to be done prior to any commencement of work so that everybody in the room understands. And the company I'm working for right now, their JHA even has a separate block where at the end of the day, before you leave, you come in and initial that you've had no injuries or no mishaps throughout the day. That's right next to a signature line that you sign every morning before you begin work, where you talk about the hazards. But anyway, I'm sorry, guys. I should use that cough button. Talk about the hazards. Stay visible. Look out for each other. And never assume you've been seen. And like I've always said, keep it safe, timely, and efficient. Well, I'm going to shut this thing out. I appreciate Kim. I appreciate you stopping by and giving me a smiley face this morning. And if you catch this on the rerun, thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. And more than anything else, I want you to have a grateful day. And I'm going to conclude this because I don't know how much more my chest can take. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. I love every one of you. Have a grateful day, and we'll see you next time.
with clay cake on my Sunday shoes. Church let out, but the work stays put. Mama's hands crack like the winter mud, counting jars, but the shells look thin. Hard Appalachian life, it cuts and it carves every rib, every road, every rusted out car. We get up, fall down, then we get up twice, scratching out a living in this hard Appalachian life. Cold dust deep in my granddad's car. His stories hang in the kitchen smoke. Lightning took the oak, we burned it slow, warm for a night, then the cold came back. Hard Appalachian life, it cuts and it carves every rib, every road, every rusted out car. We get up, fall down, then we get up twice, scratching out a living in this hard Appalachian life. They pass down names and patchwork quilts and unpaid bills and unbent wheel. This rears, this rock, this blood, this fight.